Hello and welcome to another video. Some people had complained a little bit that my old aggro dragon list was a little out of date since I wasn't running the full metal dragoon. Personally, I still favor the other deck, but this one isn't too bad, so hopefully this will do alright. I, again, am not super partial to this variation, but it's definitely not bad, and a lot of people do favor it, so I thought why not cover it for you guys, keep it up to date, and then get right into it. Okay, and we got our first matchup here against DragonCraft. That can definitely be an interesting one. I've noticed the main struggle I have using this variation versus my other variation is mainly just keeping my board state. I don't know if that's just a meta sort of shift, or whether it is just a shift in deck type, as it's not a big change, but it seems to be enough that it really does screw me over sometimes. I don't know why that is, but that just seems to be the way it goes. So, either way, I started off with an early Disciple of Disdain. Since we were going on second, I wanted to get something on board. I needed some way to compete, and that was my best option. I also went for the Poseidon. Since we do hold two of them, we can actually pretty comfortably throw one out. And since we are going second, we do have the turn 4 Dragoon, which is actually a really good play. Especially if you get Doting out as well, you can actually quite easily flood the board from that position. But getting both out and not already having things out can be a bit tricky sometimes. It's definitely a good way to restock the board though. So there's the Machina play. I actually got my Isha video I think planned for tomorrow. That should be interesting. Definitely look forward to that. It's a deck that I typically like, but I've had a lot of trouble getting going. So overall, we're just doing a little bit of trading since we know we're going to instantly restock the board here with some decently statted followers now. Well, decently statted low-cost followers. And ideally, I would have had some more cards to work with other than just double Poseidon in my hand. Triple Poseidon definitely has slowed me down a bit. I would prefer to have either Dark Dragoon or to have, of course, Phoenix. That would have been much better. We could have managed the win with either of those cards. Maybe not right now, but in the next turn or two. So it's definitely put us on the slow end. I decided to go for the trade setup here, since it is very, very easy to do. And I can actually go for the extra summon. So we're going to be able to keep our board reasonably stocked up, even if it did cost us the Evo. Kind of worth it when we can deal like, 7 damage, nearly half the health in this one turn. And they did go for the hand discard and an instant pass, since obviously they'd pretty much given up at that point. So, no surprise though, taking the game with a pretty solid board. For the next game, we are going up against DragonCraft. Again, this video will be reasonably short. I'm trying to keep these aggro videos short since there isn't a lot to show off, and I don't want to drag them out unnecessarily, so keeping them around the hopefully 5 to 6 minute range is usually fine. If I go over that, then that's okay, but typically that's what I like to do for most of these aggro videos, as I feel like dragging them out when they've got such a basic playstyle and not a lot to show off is really kind of unnecessary. Plus you guys seem to do better with the shorter form for these sort of ones, at least. So we get a pretty standard line of play again. This time we do get the Goblin for the 1-drop. Going up against the 2-2 though is a little bit of a pain. It's definitely not the optimal thing to have to deal with, and definitely not the optimal way I would like to do it, but I mean, it's definitely an option. At least Disciple of Disdain and that are going to get us some decent draw power now, so we can actually stock our hand up fairly well. And of course, they're pretty much just going wide like I am, so it looks like they are playing the almost identical aggro dragon deck. Doesn't really surprise me that much. It is a reasonably popular dragon deck for Unlimited. So I do get a chance to go for my own Full Metal Dragoon. Should I have went for the second one? Maybe. I definitely considered that an option, but I also wanted to wipe out as much of this board as possible, so I did decide to, of course, hold on to some stuff for our early setup. And of course, that's going to be the end of the game. They end up conceding reasonably early on, but we did at least show off how quickly this board can be developed. So keeping this video reasonably short and sweet, there's not a lot to say. If you haven't watched my previous Dragon video on Aggro Dragon, the playstyle is pretty much identical. The only real difference is the ability to board flood with Full Metal Dragoon instead of going with something like Serpents, which really I think comes mostly down to personal preference and of course the difference between Legendary and Bronze cards, what you want to run sort of thing. Otherwise, this deck is perfectly fine. I definitely find it to be at least equal to the other Dragon deck on most situations. I wouldn't necessarily go off and say it was 100% superior, but it definitely gets the job done, and if you're looking for a reasonable Dragon deck for Unlimited, this is definitely a good place to be. So if you did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. Until next time, guys, see ya.